Welcome to Rite Good, the podcast that helps you write good. I'm R.S. Benedict. There are many podcasts about writing, but how many podcasts are there about wellness? Approximately 1,000,000 billion. And they all want you to know you're doing everything wrong and you should buy their products to fix it. Tan your butthole, eat raw testicles, wake up at 4 a.m. every day. In this episode, Kurt Schiller joins us to talk about our pivot to wellness influencers. Thank you for joining us, Kurt. Kurt, what supplements would you like us to buy?
The main supplement I would say would be meat. In copious quantities, but not just any meat. My special, very expensive designer meat, as it turns out, actually.
Yeah. You too can have the body of a dad with a podcast.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
The most enviable body there is. This is the ideal male form.
That's right. This is... sorry, but you're looking at peak performance.
That's right. Peak podcasting.
Yeah, I have a body for podcasting.
I don't know about you guys. I think Carlo mentioned it, but we did get reached out to by some sort of product that was trying to sell magic productivity juice.
Oh, yeah, we've gotten a few things from
They offered us
from
matcha
Podside.
flavor. It sounded really gross. It was like mushroom coffee or that shit.
We get a lot of we get less wellness stuff. We get more like business hustle grind set, where it's like somebody wants to come on to talk about their flawless business networking system to influence your way to gigabucks or whatever.
On Podside Picnic.
That's right, yes.
The ideal target audience for that content. Yes. But yeah, there's a lot of wellness out there. There's entirely too much of it. It's terrible. We hate it. We hate wellness. We would like a cure for wellness. It is a very lucrative industry. Every podcast, except us, I think, will give you little ad breaks to sell unregulated apps for therapy services, gray market pharmaceuticals, supplements, just all kinds of fucking bullshit in the hopes of making you well again, of making you better. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money selling you insecurities. It's a lot of money telling you, oh, you should be living like this, but you can't live in this impossible way. You can't eat raw liver every day, but since you're such a piece of shit that you can't do that, fucking buy my product, you trash bag.
There's been a strange pivot towards very, like, dystopian cyberpunk style wellness ads. I feel like I assume it's just because millennials are reaching midlife crisis age. and so you'll see stuff where it's like, are you sad? You need mushroom coffee. You'll feel great. And it's, as you said, there's stuff where it's like, it sure is being advertised as if it is a pharmaceutical, even though there is text on the bottom of the Facebook ad that says this literally does nothing. But look at the smiling people. You know, the vibes are very strange. They're very like techno shaman kind of vibes, or it's always some kind of. It reminds me of what was that thing that the Devil Low-Tax from the Something Awful forums got wrapped up in? Mangosteen, I believe it was for a while.
I remember hearing something about that.
Yes.
I assume that's not mangosteen, just the regular fruit.
It was supposed to be like a superfruit extract. Like 20 years ago.
Because the fruit's good. It's delicious.
It tastes good. Yeah, it tastes good.
It tastes amazing. I would not eat the extract because what's the point?
Yeah, but yeah, it's definitely weird how you see these startups and it's like, well, what's the startup? Well, we've come up with a fake drug that's not FDA approved, but we also have an app that goes with it, and therefore it's technology now.
I find it interesting how aggressively these things are gendered too, how they're sold so differently for men and women. Women still do have very much the sort of feel better and fix your gut issues. I love that we're all talking about gut issues now. It just feels really good hearing someone talking about my guts all the time. It just doesn't feel like a science word. I'm sorry. And doing that thing where it's like, look, this is a weight loss supplement, but we don't want to admit it.
Yes.
Because you don't want to admit you're on a diet. You don't want to admit it. You're supposed to be beyond that. You're supposed to be like body positive, blah, blah, blah. But of course you want to lose weight, and this is supposed to help you lose weight. But we're not going to say that. We're going to say it regulates your gut health.
Yes, yes. Take the pill that truckers used to take in 1991 so that they could drive for 19 hours straight, and also do, a 5-minute telehealth video conference with somebody who says, actually, it turns out that just so happens that the thing that you need is exactly the thing that we sell.
Yeah, it is. And that's a factor of it. I mean, a lot of the time, wellness is just a euphemism for conventional beauty and thinness. When someone says, I want a girl who takes care of herself, what he's really saying is,
Yes.
Hey, no fat chicks. But it's kind of not really acceptable to say that anymore, so now we say, I want someone who takes care of themselves. Like, what do you mean, takes care of themselves? What do you mean?
Yeah,
I took care of myself. I take care... Oh, okay, that's not what you mean. Oh, okay.
Yeah, takes care of themselves by transforming themselves into the ideal person and mate that I have imagined inside my head. So if you would please just conform to my own plus society's plus a bunch of other expectations, like God intended. I mean, that's what healthy means. I think there's also a weird angle where this really feels like a social media thing in part, but it always feels like there's an aspect of wellness that is also like larger lifestyle and aesthetic, because it's not enough to just have like super ripped abs and huge muscles and stuff. You also need to be doing whatever your ideal super gendered lifestyle is. You have to be swinging an axe while wearing plaid shirts, on top of a mountain, while a Marine does, push-ups behind you, and you save, a blonde woman from a burning building, / you need to be in, a $2 million home. Like, I'm sure they exist. I've yet to see a wellness influencer who's like, I live in a trailer,
Yeah. I live in a trailer, but I look fucking hot. Guess what?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, well, you're eating raw honey, but did you harvest the honey yourself from your own bee colony? Did you make your own beekeeper's outfit? Did you raise the sheep that you made the wool from? Did you?
Yeah.
No, you did not. So it's never good enough, and it just drives you fucking insane. It's demonic. But most of our listeners know this. I rather famously wrote an article about the weird expectations about the human body. And it strikes me a lot that a lot of the talk of wellness and health and weight and stuff, there's this idea that, like, well people and unwell people are these two distinct, separate categories, like you're different species, and not that these are modes that we all switch between as we move through our lives, inevitably, because fucking shit happens, man. You're doing pretty good, and then you're not doing pretty good, and then you're doing a little better. It's all right.
Yeah, I mean, we're all dying. We're all good. Like, this isn't ending well for any of us in the end. There is no, like, you tortured your body enough, and therefore you live forever. We're all gonna get old and sick and die eventually, regardless. So there seems to be, to me, there's an element missing of the way that we talk about wellness in culture. That is what you said. It's not like you need to achieve wellness and now you have your ideal lifestyle and everything is great. It's, challenges arise in life. Life is change. There is no secret to learn apart from, maybe listen to your body and your brain. And if it feels bad, maybe stop. Maybe stop doing the things that, like the old joke, I went to the doctor and I said, doctor, it hurts when I do this. And the doctor says, well, don't do that.
Yeah, I remember at the start of the pandemic seeing these, like, editorials or whatever by very health conscious fit people who had gotten the illness and were shocked to learn that they got really, really sick and
Yeah.
had to go to the hospital. It's like, but I took care of myself. It's like, yeah, you're thin. You're not immortal.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
like you really get this idea that like if I get the right body composition, I will never die. Like, no,
Yeah.
bro. Then people also die. I'm sorry. It's not. You're not invincible. You're obviously gonna improve your chances at surviving illnesses and cut down on some of the conditions you're gonna get. I'm not gonna deny that, obviously, but it's bizarre to me just to think, oh, I'm not immune to disease, but I do yoga. Like, motherfucker. My God.
Yeah, it's funny because I feel like, and maybe this is just my own blinkered view, but it seems to me that the people claiming that you could do something and never get sick, in 20 or 30 years ago, were seen as kooks. Like
Yeah.
it was assumed, it was generally assumed that that was kookery. If someone was like, if you do this one thing, you will not get sick and you will live forever, effectively.
Right.
And now it seems like we've discovered that the trick is to not directly say you won't get sick, but instead, if you're sick, we say, oh, well, that's because you did this wrong. So I'm not saying you won't get sick, but it's because you're eating the wrong polarity water or whatever it is. There's not enough hydrogen in your ice. You need to buy my special ice, or you need to start doing. I love the time management wellness people where
God, they're insane.
It's like the guy who there's that famous video of, I think he's like
He's like, I get 20 extra days every day.
Yes,
or something
yes,
like
yeah,
that.
exactly, yeah. My
That
first
man with
day
the
starts
very,
at 7
very red
a.m. and it
face,
ends
the
at- yes.
weirdly red face.
Exactly. Yes. Which generally, not speaking as not a doctor, but I would assume if your face is red and you're sweaty all the time, generally speaking, not a good medical sign.
Yeah,
for your
he's on
body.
something. He is injecting something that he probably shouldn't be injecting. Is all I can say.
Yeah.
It strikes me as, instead of looking at health in more of a scientific way, it's this very, very religious way where the idea is wellness is a virtue and unwellness is a sin deserving of punishment, and the sin of unwellness is disease, ugliness, and death. And that's not quite how it works. It's not good. It's not good. It's not great. I mean, as weird as things can be now, it's hard to understate how bad and nasty the sort of early 2000s war on obesity was. Like, how fucking casually cruel it was. You'd turn on the news and see stock footage of, like, fat people with the camera, their frames that their heads are cut off on the top, just walking around, and it's like, man, that guy just went outside today, and now he's, like, the symbol of everything wrong with our nation. This dude was just going to the store. This sucks.
Yeah, it was really upsetting in retrospect.
Really fucking
and
mean,
depressing.
man.
It wasn't just criticizing people for being obese. It was also using obesity as a stand-in for every other problem. It was a stand-in for poverty. It was a stand-in for like cultural degeneration. Like it was very often. I was thinking as you were talking about, like, those classic Jerry Springer episodes where they would always get on a bunch of fat people and say, these are white trash. Look at how terrible they are. And it was part and parcel of the criticism. It wasn't enough to criticize their body. You also had to criticize their self, their lifestyle, their habits, like everything about them.
Yeah, it was just really, really fucking cruel, and I don't think it made anyone healthier, but goddamn, a lot of people I knew who grew up during that era developed eating disorders at some point. It's not...
Yeah, I mean... And I know that this is like well-trod territory, but it even really crops up in stuff like Idiocracy and Wall-E, like anything where you're showing like, oh, society is shitty. It's like, well, now we have to show everybody being fat, of course. That's how you know that it's shitty now. So
yeah, it was really ugly and really shitty. There's also, I think, not just the physical health but mental health
Mm-hmm.
in a weird way. The idea that if you've got some sort of mental issue, like, that's a failure on your part.
Right.
There's this aspect of social control to it. There's Americans have this expectation that you're supposed to be happy all the time. That's not realistic, and that's very specific to our culture. Other cultures do not have that expectation that you're going to be happy all the fucking time,
Mm-hmm.
and that you failed somehow if you're kind of a bummer. And given that we live in a society that is particularly isolated, particularly lonely, we have got this hyper individualism that leads to loneliness. It's especially, I think, kind of fucked up. Where, oh, you're not happy? There's something
Mm-hmm.
wrong with you. Like, yeah, to a certain extent, you do need to try and find your own happiness where you can. You can't expect everybody to fix you all the time, but,
Mm-hmm.
oh, you're not happy, you fucked up, you failed. Like, man, that's... There's an
Yeah.
inability to grieve. I noticed
Mm-hmm.
that when my father passed away, like, I got a week off of work and that was it. I was expected to be sort of functional and productive after a week.
Yeah. Yeah. Or otherwise, it's like, what's your problem? What's
Yeah.
wrong with you? Yeah.
I started crying, like, maybe after 2 or 3 weeks later in front of a friend. She's like, yeah, you should schedule a therapy appointment. It's like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
this is a normal emotional response. You're supposed
Mm-hmm.
to feel that way. It's not a mental illness to cry when someone you love dies. That is normal. So with this expectation of, like, any kind of unpleasant emotion is it almost an illness to be cured. It doesn't really give us space to, like, actually work through this shit
Mm-hmm.
the way we need to, which I think just makes things kind of worse.
I do feel like in the course of my career or working life, which I guess is like 20 something years now, I've been working. Jeez.
Hmm.
The I do feel like that's gotten a little bit better, because I definitely feel like the first time that I saw somebody cry at a job, I feel like everybody freaked out and treated it like it was like a big problem. Like, such and such is crying. Like, what the fuck are we going to do? What's wrong? Oh my god, we need to do something about this. And do something was not like ask if they're okay.
Mhm.
You know, like, make sure that they're doing okay as a human would to another human.
Yeah.
But like, we need to tell them to go into a room and cry in there, because we can't have people crying at work. There's something wrong.
Mhm.
Or like, do you remember that movie? And this is a depressing thought, that I think it was George Clooney and I forget the other actor, Up in the Air, where they're like consultants who go around firing people.
Oh,
And
I haven't seen that.
It's, well, the concept is basically George Clooney is like an old school consultant who gets brought in to fire people, basically, and he gets paired up with like a young hotshot who has developed a system to fire people remotely over video camera. And, you know, of course, when they actually try to put it into practice, the person on the other end of the call just starts crying and freaking out because they've just been fired over a video call. And then, you know, she has to learn from George Clooney about firing people in a more human way. But suffice to say, it is kind of depressing to think that actually that is just kind of that scene is totally acceptable now, to just fire people over a video call like that. Like,
Yeah.
the thing that in that movie was positioned as the irrational bad thing is now just like, no, actually this is totally fine.
Yeah. Or you just log into the company Slack chat and you can't log in anymore.
Yeah,
and that's how
and you
know.
can't log in. Yes, I forget
Motherfucker.
what company that was, where it was like, oh, they just turned off their cards, so people were just like walking up to the door and like, oh, won't let me in. I guess I'm fired.
That I'm sure there were. That's a lot of companies. That doesn't narrow it down at all.
I've probably
So
told
many.
this story, but I worked at a company one time that did a firing pizza party.
What?
So what they did was, they did an announcement on, I think it was on the PA system, which was, it's weird to think about like an office that has a PA system now, but this one
Yeah, that is
actually
weird.
did. This is like an older company. This is a very like 1970s 1980s company, and they announced, everybody please come to the lunchroom. We all came to the lunchroom, and there were pizzas out, and they said, so we are doing layoffs. Approximately 1/3 of you will be laid off.
Oh
Please
my God.
do not leave the building. you may stay here or go back to your office. Have some pizza. Somebody will be around shortly to tell you if you're fired.
That's amazing.
And so we sat around and we ate the layoff pizza, and it was the worst and saddest pizza I've ever eaten. I was not laid off, but like everybody else that I knew there was, and it was very strange. Suffice to say, not a great way emotionally
That's
to
incredible.
treat other people.
Yeah. God, isn't that the way though? You know a job sucks when they keep giving you food.
Yes.
Like it's like it's basically them admitting, like, yeah, this place sucks. Yeah. Have some pizza. I've never had like a great job where they're just pouring food on you. It's always just places that are complete trash, and it's like, we know it's trash, so we got you some fucking chocolates. Here you go.
Yeah. At least it was a little bit better when it would be junk food. Now that it's like, oh, well, no, it needs to be back to the topic of wellness. It's like, well, now it needs to be food that sucks too. It also needs to be food that doesn't even taste good. So you can feel sad and unsatisfied.
Yeah. Give me the good shit. Fucking, if you're gonna treat us that bad, go full old school and just buy us cigarettes.
Yeah. Honestly, lay off cigarettes, I'd take it.
That'd be sick. I would take the layoff cigarettes 100%. I'm trash. I'd do it. Because I'm well. But yeah, we've got this horrible, weird fucking obsession with wellness in North America. And I think that has created this crab bucket reaction to it. Mm-hmm. Like, the idea that anything you have can and must be cured, and if you don't fix it through your strength of will and dietary changes, it's your fault and you deserve to suffer. You find a space, online spaces are very good for this, to commiserate, and these spaces turn into self-destructive crab buckets really, really quickly. It's really fucked up. Like, okay, yeah, you can't cure everything with self-care, but obviously, some basic self-care will make you feel and look a little better, which is it's a good thing to do. Eating vegetables will be good for you. It's good. And like the perfectionism builds this all or nothing mindset. Here's the the downside of it. If you're not perfect, then you're shit. Well, okay, I guess I'm shit. So right. I'm not gonna try. I cannot achieve perfection, so I fucking give up. I've noticed this. I've noticed so many of these cute little relatable comics that get spread on social media are about like, oh, you're 30, it's time for chronic back pain. Like, no, it's not. It's not time for chronic back pain at 30. That's young. You don't have to be that way. There's shit you can do. You can just like stretch. Mm-hmm. Do some fucking Romanian deadlifts or something. Like you're gonna be okay. You don't have to feel like complete shit all the time. It's not inevitable, at least not at the age of 30. Maybe when you're like 60 or something, sure, but not 30, but we've just accepted the fact that like, yeah, I'm gonna feel like shit all the fucking time. Haha, nothing I can do. Like, no, something's wrong. You need to stop. Whatever it is.
Yeah, and I think that attitude really extends to like not everything, but a lot of stuff where it's like it's going to suck. It's gonna suck. Whatever it is, your career's going to suck. Your relationship is going to suck. You need to deal with the suck. There's going to be suck. There is an assumed level of suck about being a person. It's like a very stupid sort of Buddhism. It's like life is suck, actually. As it turns out. You need to break the wheel of Suksara, I guess it would be.
Yeah, instead of all things are temporary, like everything sucks.
Everything sucks forever until
everything
you escape.
Sucks sometimes. It's all right.
Yeah, and I mean, it's definitely true that like you are certainly, as you age, you are certainly going to have some problems, and as you say, it's not good to deny that. Neither is it good to be like, well, I'm old and I guess it's time to die now. My joy is done. It makes me think of when people say, it's such a cliche, but these are the best years of your life, and it's like
Ah,
I don't know. Actually, especially because people normally say that about being like a teenager. It's like actually it kind
yeah,
of sucks
no,
being a teenager.
it
It's
sucks.
actually really cool being 40. It's actually pretty. It's pretty great as it turns
Life
out.
begins at 40.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's frustrating because I've found as I'm going through my own periods of personal transformation how many of the refuges kind of became traps
Mm-hmm.
after a while and became like crab buckets. I have former body positive and size acceptance friends who got angry at me for getting into weightlifting.
Mm-hmm.
And that's bleak, because I love weightlifting. I am slowly becoming a himbo, and it fucking rocks. I love it. I love that shit. It
Yeah,
has
and I
brought
mean,
immense joy into my life. I have a lot less pain in my knees. For a really long time, for like a couple of years, I had my right knee kind of had a good bit of knee pain, and I don't anymore because I built up the muscles around it, so there's less stress on the joint. And like that's really fucking cool. I thought it was just, oh, I'm just gonna hurt forever. Like
yeah,
no, I'm not.
yeah,
I,
it's cool. It's like, I mean, first of all, that's awesome. Congratulations. It's
Thank
cool to
you.
be happy. Like if something makes your friend or another person happy and they feel good about it and they're like, "Hey, this is, I feel better. I feel good about this."
Mm-hmm.
Why would you it feels like it's such a weird psychological gymnastics to try to turn it just feels it seems
Mm-hmm.
so bad and unhealthy to try to turn that into a reason to be mad at them. Like
Yeah.
how dare you how dare you find a way of being happy that's different from what it means for me to be happy, because like
Yeah.
you wind up in this situation, I think, of trying to police other people's bodies in the opposite direction,
Yeah.
where it's like, well,
Oh,
how
you're conforming?
you're
Yeah.
conforming. Exactly, you
Yeah.
sold out. It very much reminds me of like you're selling out to the man,
Yeah.
it's a very like weird, it's I don't want to say it to me it's a very Gen X attitude but applied to something other than like work.
Yeah. I'm
Like, oh,
selling out to
you're a
the man, and
phony.
by the man I mean my primary care
Yeah,
physician,
yeah, you went
who's
jogging,
very
you went to
happy
the
at what my
gym.
cholesterol levels look like in comparison.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, your cholesterol went down. Fucking that's cool. Good for you. And I get it. Like it. I don't know how it is for someone raised as a man, but like if you're at least raised as a woman, it's kind of hard to end up being able to do something for yourself when you've been
Hmm.
inundated since birth with this message that your body isn't really yours. It
Hmm.
doesn't belong to you. You're supposed to be thin so that other people can look at you. You're supposed to be healthy so that you can, push out someone else's
Hmm.
babies. You're supposed to blah 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 for everybody else. So I understand why it's very difficult to actually legitimately get to a place where you can truthfully say, I'm doing this for me.
Hmm.
Because a lot of times you will hear the I'm doing this for me, and it's really like, I'm doing this for me because people will like me better if I'm hotter. Which, like, I guess that's for you, but kind of not. Like, it is really, really fucking hard to even get to a point where you see your body as yours, because, like, it's not just
Hmm.
from birth. It's not politically. It's not. You will have to turn on the news, and every day there's a debate of, hey, can we force you to give birth against your will if
Yep.
you get raped?
Yep.
Like, damn, that sucks. Having to live with that. That's not
Hmm.
fun. So I do get it, and I do get the the impulse to roll your eyes when told, like, no, this is something that is for you and you should be doing this for yourself. But that is true, and whatever method you use to get there, I got there through lifting, because that is a thing that I was, not raised to
Hmm.
be supposed to do. For me, exercise was always, the purpose was always to, like, atone for the sin of eating. You've eaten food,
Yep.
now you got to punish yourself by burning the
Yep.
calories, and like, no, lifting at least has been a very. I know it can get to really toxic places, but for me, it's just been very affirming and very positive in terms of like, hey, you're getting stronger, your
Hmm.
form's getting better, you're doing things you've never been able to do before in your life, and instead of the approach to nutrition of like avoid this, atone for that food, it's like, no, you need more protein because that makes you stronger. You
Yeah.
need to have enough. Like, my trainer would ask me, what have you eaten today? And it wasn't supposed to be this scolding, like, did you have a bad food?
Right.
Did you do? It's like, have you had enough protein? Have you had enough water? Have you had enough sleep? Have you nourished yourself? Have you given yourself what you need to really achieve today? And it's like, this is the polar opposite of what I've been taught my whole life, and I've found it so liberating to reapproach it this way. So that's where I got through
It was
to that happy space, and I hope that if you're listening to this and you're not there, I hope you find the thing that helps you do that. It might not be the thing that you're raised to do. It might not be the thing that you're conventionally supposed to do, but I really fucking hope you find it, because it's very, very nice over here in Muscle Land. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I think that the Raised as a Man perspective is a little different. It felt less like being told that you have to be one thing and more like you have to pick from one of a range of things. Especially like once you reach high school, there was a big push to be a certain sort of man in a physical sense. Not necessarily one type. There was a range of acceptable. This is, and I'm again,
What type
I'm
of
40.
guy are you?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, are you like a football guy, and then you get big, and then you have to be like strong but big and slow, or are you going to be like a basketball guy? Are you going to be like a wrestler or a swimmer or like running? And then in college there was also like the kind of like hacky sack frisbee, class became available, but there was more flexibility. But again, in 90s terms, and this has changed, I would say, thankfully, it was also like, well, you don't want to seem gay, like
Yeah.
that's the other alternative. It's like, what? So like,
What if I'm a dancer type guy? No, you're not.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, that's gay. But if you are, you have to be like the most macho dancer ever. And it like you have to offset it some. So it definitely sounds worse, from like the raised female perspective, but I think it's the same system acting upon you in different and probably not quite as direct ways, which definitely.
But it
has
doesn't
its
sound
upsides.
great.
Yeah, not great. Maybe not as bad, but still not great.
Yeah.
My thing, I will say, has been walking. I started going on. I call them wizard walks because I imagine that I am a wizard in my head. I don't dress as a wizard.
But come on, Kurt.
Yet
You're missing a branding opportunity. You could like sell a whole new line of athleisure of like wizard athleisure.
I have thought about it. I have thought about the wizard system, but I just go for like a really long, several mile walk. And the other thing that I have changed in the last year is I actually sleep a reasonable amount of time.
What?
Because this, I think, is starting. It kind of gets into one of our later, subjects. Is like I felt for a long time, I felt such a drive to accomplish things artistically or creatively that I was like, well, I need all this time after everyone else has gone to sleep that I can devote to that. And so I mean, to be perfectly honest, like the first 7 or 8 issues of Blood Knife, I basically would be up for almost 24 hours, just like in like a nonstop blitz of editing and updating websites and stuff. And I reached a point where I was like, I'm gonna die if I keep like this is bad. And it turns out that if you actually sleep more, you feel better. It turns out that it's better for you. But to what you were saying about like the crab bucket mentality, it's definitely become this thing where we feel judged by non-judgmental activity. We feel judged when someone pursues something different from us. at some level. And I think that that's a natural human reaction of like, oh, well, they're doing something that I'm not. Can I do that? And
Mm-hmm.
this is speaking personally. I do always feel like a jolt of uncertainty, or being like, man, maybe I should be doing that, and like I do feel a little bad. But
Yeah.
I do think it's important to recognize when that originates within your own head,
Mm-hmm.
and that you don't necessarily need to listen to that. The problem might not be other people living a different life. It
Yeah.
may just be your brain, yelling at you.
Yeah.
And it's certainly not good to externalize that and attack other people. I mean, again, imagine attacking somebody for wanting to be happy.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem very good.
Yeah. Right, so let's start turning this toward writing. Oh my god, this is a writing podcast, not just a wellness podcast.
Well, yeah,
Okay.
let's talk about lifts.
Yeah, let's talk about lifts. So, let's bring it to art. I think both of us think in the art world there is this sense that self-destruction is normal and acceptable. There's a workaholism that you gotta keep doing it. You gotta always do it. You should be missing sleep to write. You should be waking up at 4 a.m. and writing.
Mm-hmm.
You should be staying awake for hours writing.
Yeah.
If you only have a little time for art because you have a day job, you failed. You're bad. Or if you take a little time away from art to recover or raise a baby or whatever, fuck you. You're bad.
Yeah, and if
That's not good.
if you consider that you also need money to not die, so that you can do art, that also is bad. At some level, that's of course the much feared selling out.
Yeah.
I had a relative at one point. I won't say who. My original thing was I wanted to be a journalist, and dear listeners, you may not know this, but journalists make approximately no money. And it's really hard. It's really hard. I mean, God, this was like 15 years ago. Like, you actually made a little more money than you make now, but it still wasn't much.
Yeah.
And when I decided, actually it sucks to not make any money, as much as I like being a journalist, I had somebody in my life who was kind of like, how can you do that soul-crushing job? But when I decided that I wanted to go into marketing, and they were like, how can you do that soul-crushing job? Aren't you going to hate it? And I was like, I don't know. It doesn't seem like it. And it turns out the answer is no. And not being super poor and exhausted and getting paid nothing for doing some of the hardest, creative work around, it actually doesn't suck. It's actually really great.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and getting paid dog shit so that your newspaper can run like a 6-figure a year columnist to write articles that are about like, I don't know, are gay people secretly bugs? We don't know. We simply can't tell. I am simply asking questions. Like, motherfucker. God damn it.
Yeah, and there's also, I think there's an assumption, and this is something that you hear, that I heard a lot when I paid a lot of attention to sci-fi and fantasy publishing and writing, discourse, was like, success depends upon hard work, which is mostly true, granted, but given that hard work itself does not guarantee success, certainly not in anything creative, like, it's a really unhealthy attitude to justify being unhappy from overwork, because you're like, well, if I don't do this, I won't succeed. And it's like, oh, well, you might not succeed anyway. And you kind of, at a certain level, I think you need to be okay with failing and being happy, instead of the alternative, which is you might fail and also be really unhappy and sick and tired and poor. Isn't a great way to be. Like, maybe raising your chance of failure a little bit isn't so bad. If it allows you to function as a human. But there's
Yeah.
definitely a push against that. Like you'll see people talking in slightly guarded terms at times about, well, you need to be willing to put
Hmm.
in the work. If you're not putting in the work, you're not
Yeah.
you're not going to make it.
I mean, you do need to write to be a writer.
Right.
I'm not going to deny that, but I don't think you should hurt yourself to do that.
Yeah. Or do it so much that you don't enjoy the thing that you love anymore.
Yeah. Or just give up the rest of your life. Like, it's kind of funny. Every time George R. Martin is photographed doing anything out in public, there's this chorus of screaming of like, "Why aren't you writing on the book?
Yeah.
Why aren't you working on the book?" Like, I would not fucking work on the book if I had that kind of money. I would just be fucking partying like crazy. I would be on a yacht. You think I'd work on a
Yeah.
book? Fuck you.
I would buy so many little sailor hats that he wears. I'd be getting like gold custom sailor hats with some kind of crystal enamel on them.
Yeah.
I'd have sailor hats with little goldfish inside of them. I'd be out at the club, absolutely.
I'd definitely be doing some rich person hobbies. I'd be sailing, probably. That's a good rich person. Horses. I'd be on the ranch, riding my purebred horse.
that you would give like a cool fantasy name to.
Yeah.
Ice Mane or something along those lines.
Yeah. I would 100% be doing rich person hobbies. I would not be working on some fucking book. He has no need to do that. So who cares? It's weird too, because the people who yelled at him for it are the ones who are like, "Oh, he's a bad person. His books are bad." It's like, well, why do you want him to make more?
Yeah.
Make up your fucking mind.
Yeah.
Do you want these books or not? If you think his books are bad, then tell him, yes, keep partying. Stop writing, sir.
It does make me really long for the days when what you knew about an author was whatever you could get from like 3 sentences at the back of the book. And that was it. There was no other information available about whoever these people were. It was just like you would get a very shrunk down 8x10, the same one for like their entire career, maybe, and like maybe a paragraph. And half of the paragraph would be about other books that they've written. And the entire extent of your knowledge of most authors would be, where they live, are they married, and how many pets do they have?
Yeah, that's a good thing, I think. But in general, there's this romanticization of artistic self-destruction. We've heard about the rock star lifestyle, the glamorous self-destructive rock star lifestyle, the 27 Club, and the 27 Club is this thing where a lot of really particularly brilliant and influential artists die at the age of 27, like Kurt Cobain, Amy Winehouse, I believe Jimi Hendrix. There's this idea that it's kind of beautiful to fucking kill yourself. And we have the question, how much can you sacrifice for art? Because to be real, you do have to sacrifice something. You have to sacrifice a good bit of time and energy to put into art and to make it good. But how much should you sacrifice for art? Is it really worth destroying yourself emotionally for it? Something I'll note is that I know now we remember Amy Winehouse fondly, and there are these like biopics about how wonderful she was. I remember when she was still alive, no one was saying this shit about her this nice when she was still alive. It was so fucking disgusting. It was really cruel. She was the butt of every joke. All the tabloids loved making fun of her. Every fucking hack, stand-up, late-night comedian opened a monologue making fun of, oh, you hear about what Amy Winehouse did? And up until she fucking died. And it kind of pisses me off seeing so much of this shit coming out of a lot of the same networks and publishers and companies that were very happy to make money making fun of her when she was very clearly profoundly unwell and profoundly just in need of help and on her way. Just it was not a shock when she died. No one was like, oh wow, we didn't see that coming. Everybody knew it was coming, and no one gave a shit because it was so easy to just laugh. And then after she died, there were a lot of jokes about that too. It just took like 10 years for someone to be nice to her again.
It's especially kind of darkly ironic that like almost always the lifestyle of the famous artist, the rock star, it usually makes them incapable of making the art as well. Like,
Yeah.
I was reading a short biography of Jerry Garcia, who, you know, I mean, he was in his 50s when he died, I believe. But according to people who worked with him, like the last, you know, 10 or 15 years of his life, he basically was like non-functional as an artist. Like, he was struggling to sing and play. You know, people didn't want to work with him anymore because he was a mess. He was constantly, you know, using drugs. He was he was just not able to be Jerry Garcia as people knew him to be. And yet that's what we wind up romanticizing is, you know, oh, the dying artist. But the fact that you are dying means that you can't be an artist anymore. Like, it doesn't work, you know? Like, you need to be well, or at least well enough to be able to make art. Like, that, you know, seeking happiness and wellness is part of what makes artists able to create. And if you're not, you're going to have a real fucking hard time making anything, you know, if you're sick.
Yeah, I remember when the lead of Stone Temple Pilots, Scott Weiland, died. He had notorious problems with drugs and lifestyle issues, but it was kind of romanticized a little bit around the time he died. But right after that happened, his wife, I believe, wrote, or his ex-wife wrote an article for I think it was Rolling Stone, saying like, please don't fucking romanticize this. There's nothing romantic about throwing your ex-husband into the shower and getting coffee into him so that he can hopefully be alert enough to be sort of coherent when he talks to your daughter, because he's just recently taken heroin and he's fucked up again. And the line that really stuck with me was, you know, she gives the date of his death, and says, "This was not the day he died. This was the last date that he was able to be propped up in front of a microphone for someone else's profit. He died a long time ago." And it's like, god damn, when someone you had a kid with says that about you, there's nothing romantic, there's nothing beautiful about that. It's just fucking bleak. He made art about how he knew he was fucking up his life, and it's just like, man, that's bad. But but a lot of it is, fans do kind of eat it up. I'm thinking about how, like, Alanis Morissette, we're reliving the 90s over and over again today. Alanis Morissette's follow-up album, where she, like, calmed down and presumably got some effective therapy, was not a hit like Jagged Little Pill was. But on the other hand, it's like, was she supposed to just make music about how mad she was at Dave Coulier the rest of her life? Like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Let's do another album getting mad at Uncle Joey from Full House.
Yeah, I think part of the problem is, it seems to be part of the human condition that, you know, when you're in your 20s or a teenager, you can take a lot of punishment.
Yeah.
You don't pay the bill right away. It's going to come due eventually. But our bodies will kind of train us that, oh, we're fine. I drank 12 beers and I woke up and I wasn't hungover. That means that it's fine. I feel fine. Everything's great. And at a certain point, you know, you can't do that anymore. And really, you couldn't ever do it. You just weren't immediately experiencing the effects. But I think that people, fans, artists, everyone has developed this romance of the young invincible person. And so, you know, by dying young, you know, you remain invincible and beautiful and perfect forever. You know, you never have to deal with, you get to remain the legend. You never have to deal with the awkward reality of, you know, being 67 and, you know, old and not being able to go out and party and be cool and looking old and not looking, you know, young and hot anymore. You know, but like, it's not any better to be a corpse It's much worse, in fact,
Yeah.
to be a corpse. And like, I think we know that logically and
But
rationally.
even then, people still get mad. Like, this former rock star went bald. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
that is
yeah,
a
yeah,
thing that happens to
exactly.
most men eventually. I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you.
Yes,
You lost his hair. Like, yeah, that'll happen.
I'm a big punk fan, and I've gotten off of most social media now, which I think was a big
Hmm.
positive for me. So speaking of,
Yeah.
wellness, and there's lots that we could say about, and probably should say about,
Hmm.
like the interface of your own mental well-being and social media and artistry.
Yeah.
But I will constantly see people who I assume are like 19 or 20 shitting on, Fat Mike from NoFX, for instance, because he's old, and it's never even because, like, oh, that guy's an asshole, which by some accounts he apparently may well be. I have no idea. But it'll because, like, oh well, he's old and uncool now. What a joke. And it's like, well, no, it's kind of great that he didn't die and is he's alive. Ozzy Osbourne is not pathetic. He's still alive. That's remarkable. Granted,
Yeah, particularly that Ozzy Osbourne specifically is still alive
yeah,
is nothing short of a
yeah,
miracle.
or like Keith Richards, like remarkable. Much better to be Ozzy Osbourne or Keith Richards and to be old and kind of like shambling around. That is what happens to us all. Than to be Jimi Hendrix,
Yeah.
and to be dead.
Yeah. Because ultimately the question is who benefits from this. Maybe the artist will get a little fun, a little self fulfillment, a little money while they're still alive, but probably not. So many of these artists die in poverty, and then after they're dead, someone else
Yep.
makes a lot of money off of them. Hooray for them! Fuck you, artist persons. This is what you died for, so that some other company can make money off of you now that you're dead. Aren't you happy about that? Probably not. That would
Yeah.
not make me happy. I would like to rise from the grave and take revenge if that was me.
It's such a cliche too. We've become so inured and cynical about that process that when somebody dies, one of the first things that I think is like, oh man, now every website is going to do like a big retrospective, and their album sales are going to go crazy, or their books, like the ones that really depressed me were like a few famous comics and graphic novel artists and writers passed away in the past few years in like abject poverty. And when they passed away, all of a sudden all their shit sold super well because people went, "Oh yeah, that person," and like that sucks. Like that, it's not like they're getting that money. It's like the final insult is not only did they
Yeah.
die in poverty and obscurity, but they get to have a comeback, and they're not even alive anymore. To see it.
Yeah, oh god. I remember when Sinead O'Connor passed away, and I'm so mad that one of the few people in the industry who actually like said the truth and
Mm-hmm.
was fucking Morrissey of all people. Like, god damn it, why did he have to be right? But I looked
Worst
up what he
person you
said.
know, et cetera, et cetera.
So
Yeah.
yeah, worst person you know makes a very good point, which is music CEOs who had put on their most charming smile as they refused her for their roster are queuing up to call her a feminist icon, and 15-minute celebrities and goblins from hell and record labels of artificially aroused diversity are squeezing onto Twitter to Twitter their jibber jabber when it was you who talked Sinead into giving up
Mm-hmm.
because she refused to be labeled and she was degraded, as those few who move the world are always degraded. What is it? She had only so much self to give. She was dropped by her label after selling 7 million albums for them. She became crazed, yes, but uninteresting, never. She had done nothing wrong. She had proud vulnerability, and there is a certain music industry hatred for singers who don't fit in, and they are never praised until death, when finally they can't answer back. The cruel playpen of fame gushes with praise for Sinead today, with the usual moronic labels of icon and legend. You praise her now only because it is too late.
Mm-hmm.
You hadn't the guts to support her when she was alive and she was looking for you. It's like, god damn it. I'm so mad that it's Morrissey who's saying something right about that. Like, oh, Why couldn't it have been someone
Mm-hmm.
else? But yeah, that is the pattern over and fucking over again and fucking over again. So that is the reward of you destroying
Mm-hmm.
yourself for your art, is that everybody who made fun of you while you were alive and on your way down will pat themselves on the back for praising you after you're fucking gone, and then they'll cash in on it.
Yep.
And that's it. That's what you get. So
Yep.
don't, it's not worth it.
In death, of course, Sinead O'Connor stops being the problematic, confusing, controversial figure and magically transforms back into 22-year-old Sinead O'Connor,
Right.
in 1992 at the top of the charts again. And it allows media culture and our own memories to just kind of shuffle away the stuff, the uncomfortable reality, that
Mm-hmm.
we didn't want to think about, where she wasn't living up to what the expectations of her as an artist were, because she was being a person, and it's really unfortunate that we can't just celebrate people as people,
Yeah. And
whether they're how we would like them to be or not.
not to mention, a lot of art does come from mental issues and mental unwellness, and like and mental illness stops being sexy as you age.
Yep.
In your 20s, it's kind of hot. When you're like hitting 40, it's not hot anymore.
I think the one, this is corny, but the thing that made me really rethink that was reading about Sid Barrett from Pink Floyd, where
Mm,
he, by all accounts, became extremely unwell, but he didn't die. He just kind of disappeared,
yeah.
and not in a cool romantic way, in like a very sad way, where he was apparently just like living at home and just kind of living out a normal, if seemingly not particularly happy existence, to the point where I think famously he came by one of the recording sessions for one of their later albums, and they didn't even recognize him, and like he hung out for a
Oh,
little while, and then they were like, oh god, like that's Sid. And like it's
oh.
tempting even to romanticize that, but like that sucks. And I think aging myself has made me really rethink how you want to be as you get older. Like we can't stay young. So I'm going super philosophical. I stuck about writing for.
Mm-hmm.
Like we can't stay young, and if you're going to keep living, you kind of have to come to terms and be happy with not being a young cool person anymore. And so that means finding a way to be old and uncool and still happy. Like
Yeah. Pivoting from just complete burning out and dying to more mild forms of self
mm,
destruction and self harm when it comes to art. Let's talk a little bit about the industry as it pertains to writing, as it pertains to what we need to do to stay in the industry and promote ourselves. And I've more recently kind of walked away from short science fiction and fantasy publishing. I've been doing a lot more nonfiction and getting work published. I got a piece in Fangoria, which I'm really proud of,
hell
and
yeah.
hell yeah, and been working on a novel, still working on my fucking novel for years and years and years. I'm finally getting toward the end of the third draft, but I think it didn't hit me how bad SFF's publishing scene was socially until I started working in other publishing
Mm-hmm.
spheres. And just working for the New Haven Independent, working with the editors of Fangoria, these were really like cordial, professional, just great folks to work with.
Mm-hmm.
Versus SFF, which is this like, Jesus Christ, it's bad. It's so profoundly unwell and nasty and like I know the word toxic
Mm-hmm.
is overused, but yeah, like being in that sphere just made me kind of meaner and angrier and shittier. The amount of hypocritical self-aggrandizement of people talking about how great they are and just being the most like two-faced, backbiting, nasty, petty,
Mm-hmm.
awful fucking people, and then just going and working with like the dude who runs Fangoria, and he's like normal.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept realized I was bracing myself for something weird and fucked up and shitty to happen. And it's like, no, nothing bad happened.
Mm-hmm.
He was great. He was great to work with. He was super.
Yeah, it makes me think. I really think that a lot of that, and this is maybe I'm leaning too much on this, but I really think that a big part of that is just how much SFF has come to rely on Twitter and similar platforms
Mm-hmm.
to drive your career, to drive visibility of articles, to function as your presence in the community. And the fact that those platforms are built, like, first and foremost, to prioritize outrage effectively.
Yeah.
Like, and
Yeah.
if nobody is mad about anything, those platforms, like, basically don't function. Like, people need to be mad, or I don't know what the positive version of mad is, like
Mm.
crusading about something. And I criticize myself a great deal for this, because a big part of the reason that I walked away of from, like, social media, and it sounds like you did as well, is realizing, at least for me, there was two things really. One was I was going from, like, outrage to outrage. And I don't
Yeah.
say this in the sense of, like, oh, the woke mind virus is causing people to just like, I was always mad about something, and
Yeah.
some things were correct things to be mad about, but suffice to say, you can't be mad all the time. And I felt like
Yeah.
there was always a new controversy, always a new blow up. I was always criticizing somebody and talking shit about somebody, and I just
Yeah.
realized it was just, like, making me, like, an unhappy, unpleasant person. And it has
Yeah.
nothing to do with science fiction or fantasy. It's
It's
just
certainly
Twitter.
not about the craft, but that
Yeah.
is the norm in sci-fi fantasy. As much as it likes to promote itself as like this healthy, positive space, it's no, it's just really nasty. Every day there's a new like, here's the new person we're mad at, and we're deciding that this person is the scapegoat for the whole
Mm-hmm.
industry, and for some reason this person is usually a woman disproportionately
Mm-hmm.
that everybody gets mad at. I don't know if there's a thing about that. I don't know. It sure was noticeable,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't like being around it, and I didn't like being part of it. And I know there are still people in SFF who are very interested in being mad at me, despite me not being part of it anymore. But
Yeah.
still fucking obsessing about me whenever like a controversy happens. I wonder what that Benedict person says. Like, I don't fucking know, man. I'm not even posting about this. Why are you bothering me? I was making watermelon granitas.
Hell
It was
yeah.
pretty. It came out pretty good. I'm really happy about it. It's very good. I don't know. A friend of mine once compared me to the tank character in an RPG. You know, like if you're playing an RPG, you've got a party of like different types of warrior classes or whatever. You know, there's your mage, there's your healer, there's your ninja, whatever. But the tank, it's like that's the member of your party who has a shitload of hit points, and he soaks up all the damage, which allows all the other party members to cast their spells or steal or whatever. So he said that that's kind of what I was in
Mm.
SFF. Like I was the tank. Like I absorbed this really weirdly disproportionate amount of hatred and harassment and nastiness from SFF in a way that made it more acceptable for other people to publicly air criticisms of the industry and the way the scene functions and the dominant style. But like, and I know that was meant as a compliment, but it kind of hit me as like, yeah, I guess that's true, but also that sucks. Being the tank sucks, man. I don't have that many hit points
Mm-hmm.
anymore, and like I've stopped kind of engaging with SFF and railing against whatever stupid kind of bullshit they're
Yep.
doing lately because I'm not really a part of it. I've given up on it, and I'm happier for it. Like, what good did it do for me? What change did it make? It didn't.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I do feel like I'm seeing more people these days who are a little bit more open about saying like, no, this is fucked up. This sucks.
Yeah.
And if I've been able to be a part of that, that's kind of nice. But it's like I can't be the tank anymore, man.
Mm-hmm.
I'm done. I got yoga class. I'm done.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. Is like, to your point about, like, what good was it? Like, I really struggle because I certainly made and certainly still have a ton of criticisms that I think are correct, but I realized at a certain point that I was over invested in them, and I was
Yeah.
angry about them, and that it didn't really matter whether I was angry or not angry, and it didn't really matter whether I liked or disliked things, and no amount of activity on my part was necessarily going to convince people to agree with me. And
Yeah.
certainly not being like I genuinely feel bad for how many people I was mean to, not
Mm.
because I think I was wrong. Like, I don't agree with them, but like, just because it was a waste of time. Like, it would have been
Yeah.
so much better for me to just be like, maybe again, like, I think it's a fine line. I would still like to be able to make my criticisms and then like move on and forget about it. But to your point, like, becoming the tank, becoming the warrior, like, isn't good for anybody except for Elon Musk, right? Like
Yeah.
it's not improving the world. Like, I think there's a lie that cuts both ways, where it's easy to convince yourself that it's good to be angry for a good cause, and it's good for people to be angry at you when you are correct. And it's not bad in and of itself, but it's not like it doesn't actually accomplish anything. And so at a certain
Right.
point, it's kind of becomes pointless. It's like, well, I'm saying the same thing over and over and over again. I'm still angry about it, and the world is exactly the same. And at a certain point, I just stopped,
Mhm.
and I realized that when
Yeah.
I stopped posting about it, I stopped thinking about these things, and then it didn't matter anymore. Like,
Yeah. You start realizing, like,
yes,
who are these people? Yeah, this guy has
exactly.
won like 5 Hugos, but no one knows who the fuck he is. He's a loser.
Yeah,
Why do I care?
yeah, exactly. Or like, it's not even like, he's a loser. It's like, well, whatever. Why do I need to have an opinion on this?
Yeah.
What purpose is it serving but to make me unhappy, and occasionally, like, maybe I'll be mean to someone and then they'll be unhappy, and it's like, well, I don't feel good about that. I definitely,
Yeah.
I didn't become a writer because I wanted to argue with people and make them feel bad.
Yeah. And like the SFF, self like circular firing squad drama mill shit is gonna keep churning on whether I'm there or not.
Yes.
I'm sure every bit of mainstream news that comes out of the current Worldcon is like, look at this incredibly stupid fucking thing that happened. Look at these stupid assholes. I'm like,
Yes.
yeah, that's
Yes.
fucking
Look at these
stupid, but I feel
assholes.
pretty good
Yes.
about not being part of it.
Yeah, far too much of almost any online community, but especially SFF, has become, look at these assholes. Whether I'm the asshole, you're the asshole, they are the asshole. Like,
Hmm.
it's any community that requires for somebody to be the asshole is probably not a great place to be a part of. And again, I don't say this in terms of like, I'm walking away from the SFF community.
Yeah.
I'm right, they're wrong. It's literally just like, I'm just not going to think about this anymore. It's just not making me happy. I'm writing
Yeah.
stupid wizard stories right now, and I don't even think about Twitter. And that's, I'm perfectly happy writing my stupid wizard stories. I don't even know what I'm going to do with them. I'm just enjoying.
Yeah. Eventually, I'll send the novel to someone and not deal with the discourse that probably it'll generate. I don't know. Who
Maybe,
cares?
yeah, maybe.
I don't want to.
You don't have to
I'll go
see
on
it.
some podcasts and promote it. I don't gotta see it. I don't gotta engage. I don't let them be mad. It's like I know. There's a tendency to want to think of walking away from an argument as losing or admitting defeat, but like no, really, sometimes that is the best way. Like as DeShare Zone taught us, shit sucks. Hit the bricks.
Yes.
That's the
Yeah.
right thing to do. The triumphant ending of a gothic novel is to leave the vampire castle.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel like I've done. I feel like, one of those like cheesy 1970s gothic novel heroines who's like fleeing the decrepit manor as it collapses behind her, and she's running through the woods in like a diaphanous gown with like a candle, and she's got great hair. She just has fantastic hair, and that's kind of what I feel like. Let it just. I'm just out of this shit. Fucking, I'm done. Goodbye. My hair looks great.
There's a song lyric I think about a lot. Not to be the song lyric guy, but It's from a song called "From Here Till Utopia" by the band Ramshackle Glory, which is a very enjoyable like anarcho punk band.
Yeah.
And the song is basically about like being a young, angry political person and the harm that that can do to you, despite like it being a good cause. And there's a line in there where they say,
Mm-hmm.
no one's going to stop you from dying young and miserable and right. Like, like it's not being right isn't always worth it. It's not surrender to say, maybe like if I'm not getting anywhere, as you say, maybe it's time to hit the bricks.
Yeah. Do my own thing, whatever. You don't need that industry to succeed anyway.
Yeah.
Like, you
Yeah.
just don't. The biggest sci-fi writer, I would argue, Jeff Vandermeer, is not a part of the SFF scene at all, and I've never seen him say anything positive about it.
He mostly posts like raccoon pictures, doesn't he? Like,
Mostly, but whenever he talks about it at all, he'll usually say something just like, "Yeah, it's fucked up. It all sucks."
yeah.
And that's it, which, like, good for him. That's admirable. That is the way to do it.
Yeah.
Just stepping away from the soul-crushing industry itself and stepping away from online. More and more as a writer, as an artist, you're expected to be an influencer first and an artist second.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not good for you. We've railed against it plenty. You are the commodity. If you're selling an identity, it's a lot harder to change organically, as people tend to do, because now it's like, oh no, my brand is shifting. It's like,
Yeah.
my brand, like, this new brand might not be as profitable or popular. Like, I've noticed that the worse my life was, the more online I was, and the better I did on social media, and the more like followers I got, and the better Patreon subscribers I got. And as my life is generally going better, I'm just less online. I don't do as much content. My numbers are going down, and I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, well, that's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, that's yes. I had a shocking. Oh my god. I used to check. So like Blood Knife is on like hiatus right now. I'm trying to figure out what I want, like how I want to proceed, because like I want to
Yeah.
keep writing and publishing, but I realized that I did not want to be an online persona, like an online
Mm-hmm.
figure, even like a minor one. Like it just became bad. Like it was taking up so much of my brain. And so I'm trying to figure out like what does it mean to like how can I have a hyper online magazine without myself being hyper online. So I'm but I used to obsessively check subscriber numbers. Is it up, like traffic numbers? Is it up? Is it down? What's going on? And like I realized that I felt so bad about the idea of like moving away, of stepping away, because I knew that the numbers would go down.
Line go down.
Exactly. And it wasn't even because of that I stepped away. My grandmother, passed away earlier this year. She was sick, not for a long time, but for, like a few months. I reached a point where it had become overwhelming to me, and I realized that it wasn't because I was emotionally overwhelmed about that specifically, but that I was just so emotionally overwhelmed by everything that I had no space in my body to grieve, or like to deal with the emotions of preparing for grief. And so I kind of just went, all right, like I know that I'm either going to need to step away from my family, from grieving, from my job, or from the magazine. And I was like, I think of those choices, I should probably step away from the magazine and not from my job or my family.
Yeah. Sorry,
and-
children. Dad
yeah.
has to be online.
Yeah, Daddy's got to post. I'm sorry,
Daddy has to post.
My,
Daddy is owning someone on Twitter today. Children, get out of here.
I don't think I ever neglected my kids, but there was certainly times where I was like out doing something and I was posting and trying to own someone online, and like I feel badly about that now. Like at the time I was like, I'm having a great day and I'm owning someone. And, like, that is kind of fun, but at a certain point, it's like, like, that's also kind of pathetic.
Yeah.
And what's nice is when you step away. If you step away completely, you don't even see the numbers anymore. It doesn't matter. I haven't looked at this
Yeah.
shit in months. Like, it
Yeah.
could be 0 for all I know. Who cares? It doesn't matter.
I finally deactivated Twitter. All my posts
Hey,
lost like tears in the rain. It feels good.
fucking cheers to that.
I'm on Blue Sky, but I don't use it because it's terrible.
Yeah.
It's just like the most insufferable nerds of Twitter. I'm on Insta now, and my Instagram is mainly pictures of my cats. And the Instagrams that I follow are pictures of other people's cats, which is pretty good. I think it's pretty healthy.
Yeah.
It's just sort of a cat communication system.
Yep. I post mainly about Cub Scouts and vinyl.
That's pretty. That's so dad.
It is.
That's
It's
strongly
inevitable.
dad coded.
It's inevitable.
Yeah, you got to get into World War II history.
I kind of already went through that phase. I'm kind of
good,
burned
good,
out. I
good.
might do Roman history in a non-problematic way.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's good. Roman history rocks.
I did read the book Rubicon a number of years ago, and I did really enjoy
Nice.
that. And then I watched
Nice.
Rome last year, and that was fucking great. That was a great show.
Oh, I hear it's
boy.
really good.
It's really good. It's cool. It's funny. It's charming. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's on my to-watch list. When I get through The Nick, I'm enjoying The Nick.
Oh, I should watch that too. TV.
Yeah, it's really good.
TV.
It starts off with a doctor injecting cocaine into his penis so that he can do a surgery. And I'm like, hell
we
yeah.
go. Again, destroying yourself for art. You don't need to inject that cocaine into your penis. Just do the surgery and get more sleep.
It's really, really good.
Yeah.
That is how you know a show's gonna be sick. I'm invested in this.
Yeah, it's funny how like we used to think that TV was like the worst thing for you, but it turns out that TV that you also talk to is actually even worse.
Yeah, one thing I will say is that TV generally illegalizes child pornography, unlike Twitter apparently now, where the CEO himself personally intervened to reinstate the account of a guy who posted a video, a few stills from an infamous child pornography video. Really good. That's great. That's really, really good that happened, and that no one went to. I feel like someone should be in prison for that.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing you're supposed to go to prison for. At least someone or everyone involved in this.
I feel like maybe the internet isn't good. As it turns out,
It's not great.
Much as it pains me to say this as like a cyberpunk guy, maybe it's
Yeah,
not.
it's not
maybe
good.
it's not good. Maybe I misunderstood all the. I thought that the moral of Neuromancer was that all this stuff was good. It turns out maybe I misread these books.
It's really, yeah. I'm not. It's not. It's not great. It's not great. Right, Harley? What do you think? He's been quiet today.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah,
Harley's
rude.
contemplating our discussion.
Yeah, he's not online either. He's like, I'm not creating content for you. I will not yell. I will not yell for your entertainment, you puny humans. Alright, so we've been talking for like an hour and 20 minutes. Why don't we start winding down? Before we go, what would you like to plug?
Oh man, nothing. I'll plug the real world.
Nothing.
You know what? Get like
Yeah.
go outside. Don't go on Twitter. You know,
Yeah.
look,
Go rent a kayak.
Yes. Return to kayak.
It's summer. We still got a little bit of summer left. Go fucking kayaking or fishing or something, man.
Yeah, Blood Knife is up. It'll be up forever. We're not taking pitches and we're not publishing anything currently. I want to publish some stuff in the near future. Everything is available for free and probably will remain so. So please, I paused billing. I hope it remained paused. I should probably double check on that. But I feel like Patreon is a very confusing platform.
Yeah,
but
it's weird.
yeah, I'm interested in maybe doing like a zine, like a physical zine, not like an online zine. I'm curious about that.
Dude, are we gonna do a Burger Punk scene? Are we gonna do a
we
Burger Punk
should.
scene, Kurt?
Yeah, we should.
I will 100% take part in that.
Yeah, we should
I know a
raise
local
that.
executioner who runs a zine. He could probably offer advice.
When you say executioner,
Okay, so Troy, New York. There's like a little local publisher called Hyperion, And Hyperion has like a spin-off mag called Castle Jackal. Castle Jackal is run by a local guy who goes by the stage name Castle Jackal. I assume that's not his legal name. He is also a DJ. He's an interesting person. But his whole thing is he constantly wears an executioner's mask at all times.
All right.
While DJing, while out and about, while eating ice cream at our fine local establishment, the
high difficulty level, eating
delightful
ice cream
man
while wearing a hood.
And his magazine has a picture of him also in the executioner's hood, standing in the forest on the back cover, which, because he's the editor-in-chief. So, like, I guess we have a local executioner who publishes fantasy magazines also. I'm going to see if I can pick his brain on how to do this.
Well,
incredible branding, I gotta say.
I'm glad that Severian is making, good use of his free time.
Yeah. The Capital Region's amazing. It's really special. I was accosted by a wizard the other day, too, which I did mention.
I think I missed the wizard part. We don't have a local wizard.
Yeah, we got a local wizard. He's got, like, a cape and a staff, so you know he's legit. Ooh. He asked me for $1 the other day so that he could procure reagents to do a spell to improve the weather.
Yeah.
And I did give him $1, and you know what? The weather this weekend was gorgeous.
There you go. I mean, what...
He did it.
That's the great value for $1.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
We have, there is a local horror zine, as it turns out, that,
nice.
I haven't met the people... I probably have met the people who run it, I just don't know that it's them. And it turns out that they operate out of the mill complex. I think they might also have like a photography studio and have a zine that they do like for fun. But, you're going to love this. I was looking up how to submit to them, and the first thing they said was, please no emails.
Nice.
Just send us a letter, please. Which I was like, first of all, I love that. The other local weirdo I've become aware of recently is a fine art dealer who also has a vampire museum that he operates out of his house.
Hell yeah.
I haven't gone there yet. I have some friends who went there, and they said that as you are leaving, there's a plaque that says, I hope you were enriched by this experience. He has a display of the holy books of all the major religions, and then it says, I hope that what you have learned from this experience is that demons are real and powerful, and we need to fight them.
That's incredible.
So, I hope that there's some conjunction between the horror zine and that gentleman. If not, maybe it's an opportunity. Yeah. Maybe I can make it happen.
Yeah, but we should sign off and talk about this offline to avoid getting people's hopes up.
Yes, we should. We should.
Thank you very much for coming on the show. And thank you all for listening. If you like what you heard, head to patreon.com/Rite Gud and subscribe. Until next time, take care of yourself and keep writing good.
This has been Rite Gud with R.S. Benedict. It was hosted by R.S. Benedict and produced by Matt Keeley for KS Media LLC. Theme song by OK Glass. For comments and concerns, please write to us at ritegud@kittysneezes.com. That's RITEGUD@kittysneezes.com. If you'd like to support us, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/ritegud. This has been a Kitty Sneezes production.
kittysneezes.com in color.
Oh god, where'd I put the mouse? Hold on. There it is.